the herd, very important decisions being made, I suppose, have just been made over the last couple of months in terms of selecting, we'll say, tomorrow's cows. A couple of key questions you're saying to people to ask yourself, breed your own or purchase. So that's always a dilemma with farmers. Do I go down the route of breeding my own? And if I have a very small herd, is it really worth the hassle of trying to breed my own replacements?
Yeah, I suppose it's a question. I mean, the average sucker herd, you're talking 17 to 18 cows. Maybe some of these herds might be better off sticking to a more terminal system, or maybe if there's some very good cows, maybe to a maternal system trying to breed heifers. Very hard to do everything into one herd. So that's a key question that farmers do have to ask themselves. Look, as you say, there's pros and cons to both. You guys are probably best to talk about some of those in terms of biosecurity issues,
health issues,
health issues, maybe not being in control of your own breeding, but then the pros of it maybe that you're able to stick to a simpler system, less groups of stock and so on and so forth.
So in that decision-making process, are the current breeding stock high enough for genetic merit? So if you have a very low index herd, you're saying possibly not the right, it's going to take you a long time to get up, we'll say, in terms of lifting that genetic index up to a very, we'll say, high level.
Absolutely. I mean, particularly if a herd is using a stock bull, unless they end up getting a really extremely high index stock bull. Herds using AI may be a little bit simpler because they can spread their risk over larger numbers of bulls, and they have better access to bulls. But farmers, yeah, they definitely took the average replacement index of the cows and bulls, and if they're very low, they probably, well, maybe perhaps they're better off buying in those animals and getting that initial injection of genetic gain into the herd. Afterwards, then maybe they can start to breed their own, but again, this is on a herd by herd basis.
In terms of AI then, we're back to AI again being an option, selecting the best cows. I suppose the big thing here is reliability and access to high reliability sires. There's not a chance, I suppose, of in terms of, would say, those high reliable AI bulls dropping very quickly.
No, the reason they have high reliability is because they have so many progeny on the ground, so their indexes aren't going to change. They're pretty well proven bulls. Some farmers may be more comfortable, particularly in smaller herds, using proven bulls. Bigger herds, I would say, they should definitely consider using test bull, because what you can do with the test bull is use a team of bulls. So a herd of maybe 50 cows using AI, there's no reason that they can't use 6, 7, 8 different sires and spread their risk. I suppose at the end of the day, we still need to use test bulls, because if nobody uses test bulls, we eventually run out of proven bulls and we're nowhere. So we need to keep testing new sires all the time. New bulls as well, and your new young bulls, just like in the dairy side, they're the most elite genetics you have access to. So if we keep using proven bulls, we're stagnating genetic gain essentially. So we need to start using some of these test bulls as well. I mean, look, there's no doubt saying as well that using AI, you have access to elite genetics at a relatively low investment. Like as Gary said, if you were to buy, you know, a really superior stock bull, it could end up costing an awful lot of money. It might be justifiable for a small herd. The option to use multiple sires, Gary mentioned as well, different types of cows, big cows, small cows, you can mix and match. You can minimise risk as well by spreading your choice.
So just explain that a little to me. If I use a team of bulls rather than one bull, the chances of the 5, we'll say, dropping very quickly again is less than if I just use one bull and take all my chances on one bull.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just say, for example, we keep it in fairly round figures, one AI bull at a reliability of 90%. If you're using a team of bulls, you could use maybe a team of 5 or 6 bulls that are maybe 50-60% reliable. In that team of bulls, you'll have some bulls will drop, but other bulls will rise. So on average, you have the same level of security as using that proven bull. Where maybe a lot of farmers make mistakes is they just set on maybe one test bull, use it too heavily, and then if that bull doesn't turn out to do what it was supposed to do, all their eggs have been put into one basket.
We're going to move on to Eurostar indexes. I suppose it's a really, really useful tool in terms of selecting heifers, again, to be tomorrow's cows. And you have some really interesting, we'll say, information here in terms of where the index is going and what the effect that the index is having on our national herd.
Yeah. So I suppose before we go through the 3 steps up here, I just take people through just where the herd is, the suckler herd is going currently in terms of its genetics, okay? I suppose traditionally, and look, a lot of us will notice, the past focus has been very much on terminal traits and increasing carcass weight and carcass conformation, and we've done that quite successfully. But look, as you know, it's fairly commonly known that traits like calving difficulty has been increasing, milk has been decreasing, and our fertility traits, so age of first calving, calving interval, and survival in herds has been on the decrease as well. And the key, what we're trying to do here with the replacement mix is not turn it the other way. We're not trying to decrease our carcass traits, but we're trying to bring about a balance. There's no point in having big beefy cows if they're not going to rear good calves. And that's the key to the replacement index. In terms of our maternal traits, and there's a green board here that just compares 2014 with 2017, where have we gone in some of our key fertility traits, okay? In 2014, calves per cow per year was 0.8. So a 20 cow herd is producing 16 calves. If we look at 2017, we're now at 0.87. So the average herd has increased by 1.5 calves. The average 20 cow suckler herd is 1.5 calves more that's being weaned now. And that's an awful lot in a low margin system.
So if we put 900 euros on that calf, you're up at sort of 1,500 or whatever, 1,500 euros.
Exactly, exactly. And there's no reason that can't even increase even more to 0.9, 0.95. We look at calving interval. We were at 4. These are BDGP herds as well. So this isn't the national average. So this is within those herds that are in the BDGP. We look at calving interval in 2014, it was at 407, it's now at 393. That's a 2-week drop in 4 years on calving interval, and that's really significant. Again, there's no reason that can't drop even more. Like 393, it's a good improvement, but that's still a month outside where we want to be. In terms of Keffer's calves in 24 months, again, this is a key efficiency one. We were at 17% in 2014, we're now at 26%. Still pretty low, but at least it's going in the right direction. There's massive improvements can be made, and I know that Alan is going to be talking about calving heifers at 2 here in a minute.
So talk to us about our carcass then, because there is a thought out there that as we drive further down this maternal route that we lose out on our carcass weight and our carcass conformation, but your figures say, no, that's not the case. We're actually improving a little on those figures.
We actually are, and as you say, that is actually not the case at all, whereby carcass traits are decreasing. Overall in our herd, because there are more dairy bred stock coming into the system, our average carcass weights are dropping, but within the suckler herd, and we can only control what's within the suckler herd, we're not worried about the dairy herd here today, carcass weights have actually increased. So what we have here are steers that were slaughtered, so all the suckler bred steers, so a beef bull and a beef cow, slaughtered in 2014 and 2017. We're up almost 6 kilos on average in carcass weight. Our grade is the same, so our quality is decreasing. But this is a massive one. They're being slaughtered a month and a half younger, 6 weeks difference in the age of slaughter. And like, look, you guys maybe know better than me, the cost of finishing animals, like 6 weeks earlier finishing is saving on a lot of cost and a lot of time. So, contrary to maybe what some would like us to believe, our carcass weights have increased and our animals are much more efficient because they're being slaughtered 6 weeks younger. So that's a very important point to make.
Okay, so just move us on, we'll say, in terms of these 3 simple steps. Just we'll run through this more quickly and we'll move on to the maiden heifers then, in terms of where we're going.
Look, I suppose the first thing I'll say is, I know sometimes farmers feel a little bit bamboozled by figures and a little bit confused. So what we've just tried to do here is break it down into 3 very simple steps, okay? The first one is really common sense. Like, know what you're trying to produce. I mean, you suckler know there's lots of different systems in suckler farms.
So is that a weaning system? Is it a bull system? Is it a heifer system? Is it a traditional heifer system? What is it?
Exactly. And those different systems require different types of genetics. And if farmers are running a system X and they get genetics for system Y, it's not going to work out for them. So farmers first need to establish what are they trying to produce. Step 2 then is to identify where the cow herd is weak. So once you know what you're trying to produce, so let's just say if it's a weaning system, what are the traits of importance if you're selling progeny as weanlings? What do you need in the ring?
So you're saying, we'll say a heavy weaning of good conformation and lots of them.
Exactly. So within the cow herd, we need to see what are our cows like on traits like carcass weight and conformation. We still have to remember that milk and fertility are the foundation, because if the cows don't have milk, they're not going to rear the calves. But we still need those cows. If we want decent weanlings, we need good carcass traits as well. So the farmer needs to analyse that. And how you do that? The Herd Plus Eurostar report. And this is from the summary page. There's 28 cows in this herd. There's an average replacement index of 82 euros, which is 4 stars, so it's a bit above average, but we could get better. Carcass weight is very strong though, it's 5 stars. So looking at this is probably a continental suckler cow type, okay? We look at milk, we're only average for milk, so we could improve here again. And our fertility is quite poor, so we need to improve on calving interval.
In terms of targets, you're saying 2.1 is average and plus 2.17 is quite poor. Where do we need to get that to, in terms of your opinion?
Quite simply, on calving interval, you can see this herd is plus 2 days. You want a negative figure here. Okay. Negative is good because you want to take days off calving interval. And the more negative, the better. I mean, there are some herds out there maybe using more traditional type animals. It could be -4, -5 days there. Some herds that are very poor could be +5, +6 days, okay? The opposite is then true on milk. You want a plus figure on milk. So this herd is plus, but nationally it's only coming in about average. So that herd could improve quite a bit on milk there, okay? The third key point is then, how do we improve our cows? Well, it's through our sires. You look at dairy herds, when they pick their teams of AI bulls every year, the AI bulls' EBIs are always far, far higher than what the cows are. So we should always use our sires to improve.
Okay.
If our cows are poor, we can't just cull all our cows in the morning, but we can change our bulls quite easily. So our sires should be used to improve the cow herd. Depends on what you want. If it's a herd that's trying to breed its own replacements and take animals to beef, the replacement index is what they should be using. The terminal index should only be used where all the animals are going for slaughter.
Okay.
Okay, so it's very important that farmers know the difference between the two indexes. If they're using AI, the active bull list is on the ICBF website, and there's a stock bull finder there as well for farmers to select stock bulls. So very simply to finish up, 3 key actions for this herd. Now, I've used a traffic light system. We're very strong on carcass weight, so maintain that. We're fine on that. We need to improve our overall replacement index and milk, so that's our amber. And our red is where we're in trouble. We need to decrease the calving interval figure, so we want to get this down to a minus. Okay?
So in terms of selecting these bulls, we need to drill down into the indexes of those bulls when we're selecting the bulls to put on this herd.
Exactly. So this herd, for example, is breeding replacements and males for slaughter. So it's the replacement index it should be using. It needs a very high replacement index because it wants to improve it. Try and maintain carcass, improve milk, and a dramatic improvement on calving interval.
Okay, 6 heifers. I'm going to throw it out there, folks. Maybe you take a look at it.